Utah's athletic director, Mark Harlan, is not happy. And guess what? You shouldn't be either.
You are Locked On Utes, your daily podcast on the Utah Utes. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everyone, and thank you for making Locked On Utes your first listen and view of the day. We are part of the Locked On Podcast Network, available wherever you get your podcasts, as well as on YouTube. If it's your first time joining this show, we are so excited to have you here. Thank you for making Locked On the #1 sports podcast network. Huge shout out to our everydayers. My name is J.T. Wistrcill, credentialed media member who covers Utah athletics. Excited to be joined by the professor, WildUte, one of the co-hosts of College Football Mafia. Does a great job breaking down all things conference realignment, and today helped me break down Utes as well. Today's show brought to you by FanDuel. The College Football Playoff is here, and FanDuel is the best place to get in on the action all playoff long. So visit FanDuel.com to get your college football playoff profit boost every game day. Philip, last Friday, Mark Harlan sounded off on social media. He actually deleted it. I don't know if some people got to it and said, hey, this doesn't sound the best, or if he just said, you know what, I shouldn't do this. But the internet is forever. Always keep that in mind, everyone. He tweeted out a reaction to the news that Salesi Moa, who was at Utah, then decommitted from Utah, and we'll go over his timeline in a moment. But he put out there that he was going to announce his next school after a big bowl game coming up. It was after the Polynesian Bowl. And Mark Harlan said, well, he was with us in class for at least a week. Public announcement, seen it all now, probably not. He's clearly not happy, and why should he be? This is a guy who committed to us, was on campus in class, and then all of a sudden, boom, he leaves, and I'll let y'all take one guess where he ended up at. Michigan. Mark Harlan has every right to be frustrated over how this played out, and honestly, we should be as well. This is just one of the many examples of how broken college football is right now, Philip.
Mark Harlan is the athletic director of the University of Utah, and JT, we are podcasters. We love talking about the Utes. We're serious about the Utes, but we are not employed by the University of Utah. We are not the athletic director. And so we can say whatever we really want out there and put it in the ether on X or wherever. But Harlan's comments on X as the athletic director, I don't know. I mean, that's a tough one, really. But let's get into right now why he did it. Like why the Salesi Moa flip to Michigan stings for the Utes, okay? And I have 5 reasons here, okay? Why Salesi Moa's flip stings. And number one, and this is really what's killing Harlan too. It's killing all of us Ute fans. Number one, he was the #1 in-state player in this cycle for high school recruit, the number 45 overall player and based on 24/7, significant local buzz, the star player. Everyone wanted him, and the Utes flipped him on signing day. So number one is just the buzz, the fact that he was the #1 player in the state, and that everybody wanted him, and he was coming to Utah. That's the #1 reason it stings. Now, number 2, he was an immediate potential starter. Utah desperately needed to bring in more wide receiver talent. We've brought some in, but Salesi Moa was going to fill that position of need. And being the son of Utah here, the #1 player, we desperately needed his services. That's the number 2 reason it stings. He was going to be an immediate, probably a starter for the Utes and a playmaker in a key position. Then number 3, this is where it gets really diggy, okay? Really deep down. Number 3 is he is a legacy Ute. Ben Moa was a stud tight end for the University of Utah back in 2003 timeline. And he is a Ute fan. He loves the Utes. The Moa family loves the Utes. And so you have the son of a legacy Ute flipping to Michigan after signing day, after he's enrolled. That's painful. A legacy Ute flips after he enrolls at the school. Number 4, and this is going to be some real talk now, okay? So when we're talking about recruiting, we're talking about NIL, pay for play, money bags, etc. Look, allegedly, JT, I want to say allegedly, okay, because nobody has the real official NIL numbers. But allegedly, Salesi Moa's Utah NIL offer was nearing $1 million. And just to give you some perspective on what that means, in high school ranks this cycle for high school players, a 4-star wide receiver was getting anywhere from roughly $300,000 to $500,000 in NIL. If they were an elite 5-star based athlete or wide receiver, it was around $500,000 to $800,000 in NIL. So Salesi Moa's offer from the University of Utah allegedly was above market. Above market. And so you brought the money, you brought the bags to land the kid. He committed, he signed, he's in school, and now the fifth one. He's already enrolled and he's going to class. He's enrolled. Everyone's taking a deep breath. The dread of Salesi Moa flipping to Michigan is over. Take a deep breath. He's in class. He's attending class for a couple days. Then all of a sudden, he decides to put his name in the portal with a do not freaking transfer tag. And when we
do not contact, you mean, right?
Right. Do not contact. And we know exactly what that means. Was there tampering involved? Of course. There's tampering everywhere, right? No one's going to ever patrol that and stuff. There's a lot of tampering. Like his uncle, Lewis Powell, is over at Michigan. And so he flips to Michigan, to Kyle Whittingham and Lewis Powell, and the rest is history. But those are the 5 reasons it stings extra bad for every Ute fan in Harlan.
Yeah, it absolutely does. And like you said, like we don't know for a fact that, hey, Lewis Powell's the one who texted him and got him over here. We don't know that, but let's just say this. It is just the whole situation is just fishy. And like if you enter the transfer portal with the do not contact tag, I know there's no like, oh, good luck pinning tampering on us. It looks awful when you are, especially when you're enrolled. That's where this is also crazy. Like a reminder of the timeline of all this too. He committed to Utah December 3rd, signed with the Utes December 4th, enrolled at Utah January 5th, enters the transfer portal January 12th. What are we doing? This is college football. This is supposed to be like what we can just all of a sudden flip on a dime like that. And I know that it's different when some of the transfers do it. Like we're forced to get used to that now, but now we have guys like this who seem like they're going to stay. And it seems like it's good. And then all of a sudden they're going to go and they haven't even like been on the campus a few days. Like this is why I totally get Mark Harlan's frustrations. And I totally agree. And also he makes a great point when he said, I've seen it all. Probably not, because the truth is there's more situations like this that are probably going to happen. And like you said, Phil, this really hurts. Like not just because of how it all played out, but Mo is a really good player. I think he's going to be a stud at Michigan. I don't know if he'll play year 1 there, but I think long-term he's going to be a really good player there. And it hurts when you lose a guy of that talent, especially when you don't have a ton of them. We talked about how important the class of 2026 was for Utah in the in-state players. They got their butts kicked. Not a lot of them ended up coming to Utah. A lot of them went to BYU. Mo was really that one example you had where, this is a massive get for us. And now he left as well. So this is the type of loss that really stings, but just hope that Utah could put the pieces together and try to move forward with some of those other receiver talents you mentioned. But just that toll of guys going to Michigan just continues to pile up. It's one thing for a Smith Snowden to John Henry Daly to end there, but then John Elia, JJ Buchanan, Salesi Moa, like this is the depth and some of this, the other pieces that were part of this team that now that they're leaving, it just hurts that much more, Philip.
It's Kyle Whittingham's revenge tour. It's his revenge tour. It does feel like that. Look, if we were the coach of Michigan and we were in Kyle's situation, we do the same thing. That's just, there's no rules to this stuff. Like you're going to bring your best players, the players that you want. Look, it sucks. As Ute fans, there's no ifs, ands, or buts. And going back to the tampering, like when you have a do not contact flag on you and stuff, it's tough to digest that. I will say this. Salesi Moa was considering Michigan before he actually committed over to Tennessee. And so he was looking at that. He was looking at Sharon Moore's Michigan. He went to the Ohio State-Michigan game on a recruiting visit. So it wasn't like it's new to him and stuff. So I can see how Michigan would be compelling to a kid like that was considering that anyway. Kyle Whittingham moves over with Jason Beck. Look, I get it. I totally get it and stuff. It's just painful and it stings for the reasons that we're talking about and stuff. So when Harlan's losing his mind, totally makes sense to me.
It totally makes sense to me too. So it's just something that Utah can't do a lot about right now because they're not one of the top NIL schools. At least that's what it appears, as we mentioned. I know Mo was originally committed to us, but NIL, whatever it may be, Utah's not one of the top dogs. Mo's off to Michigan. I hope he does find success there. I hope Witt has success there, but it's one of those examples of, once again, be mad at the game, not the players and the coaches as well to me, because they're just trying to make the most talented teams they can, and I can get behind that. Utah's obviously trying to make themselves more talented, and they picked up a very intriguing commit that I'm excited to see what he can do. We're going to tell you what he could bring, the Utah's newest addition through the transfer portal, in one moment. This episode of Locked On Utes is brought to you by our friends at FanDuel Sportsbook. The college football playoff is here, and FanDuel is giving all customers even more ways to get in on the action every single game day of the playoffs. Because right now, every college football playoff game day, FanDuel users get a profit boost waiting for them in the app. Here's what I love about it. You get to use the profit boost on bets you already feel good about. Ride with the favorite when you think the team controls the matchup. Take a shot at the underdog if you feel an upset coming, or build a parlay around the players and moments you think decide the game. And then you can apply the profit boost and go even bigger with your winnings. And when you win, FanDuel pays out instantly, which is perfect for playoff football. FanDuel is the best place to get in onto the action all playoff season long. So visit FanDuel.com to get your college football playoff profit boost every game day. And to remind you, FanDuel has you covered too for not just college football. The NFL playoffs continue to roll on, NBA as well, college basketball, NHL. FanDuel, the place to be, especially for the national championship. Miami versus Indiana. I'll take Indiana and the points. However you're feeling, head over to FanDuel today. Once again, thank you for making Locked On Utes your first listen and view of the day. Want to remind you guys, we have our Everydayer Club you guys can join today. What is the Everydayer Club, you may be asking? Well, it's an opportunity for you to get an ad-free version of this podcast and an opportunity for you to enter a Discord chat with myself and other Locked On hosts. We're going to start doing Q&As there as well that will be answered not just in that Discord, but on the show too. So head over to lockedonutes.supercast.com to join the Everydayer Club today. Philip back with me here. Look, Utah, we spent a lot of segments, the first segment, all of it, talking about a decommit from Utah. And now we get to talk about a commit because Utah, to me, Philip, just filled what was their biggest transfer portal need remaining. And that was a starting caliber tight end. How good is this new starting caliber tight end going to be? I think it's fair to say that remains to be seen. But Noah Bennee signed with Utah. If that sounds familiar, he spent a few years at the Utes, then spent the last couple of years with Weber State. He had 23 receptions, 264 yards. And if you're saying that Bennee last name sounds familiar, he is the brother of Jackson Bennee. So this is a starting caliber tight end for Utah. And I know Hunter Andrews, could potentially be. He had less than 70 yards receiving last year. He's coming off a season-ending injury. Utah needed more in the tight end room, and now they're going to bring on Bennee. I like what this is. Even if I think it's fair to question, can he replicate the 650 yards that Dallin Bentley had in this offense last year?
Oh, man, I'll tell you what, JT. Noah Bennee is an A+ level pickup for the Utes. Look, he's not even rated right now as far as like transfer portal 24/7 ratings. I don't care. Watch the kid's tape. Know the kid. He played at Utah from 2021 through 2023. And more of a backup special team capacity. And some years he didn't play much at all, but he has developed. He's an older, experienced player that's played at Weber State for the last 2 years and developed his receiving game. Why is he an A+ level pickup for the Utes? Okay. He is an absolute blocking guru, JT. He's a both pass blocking and run blocking technician. Every block, every concept, he's going to be there delivering a blow and getting it done. He's a smart player, extremely experienced, and he's developed into the secondary tight end receiving threat by Hunter, just in back of Hunter Andrews. The kid knows ball. His brother's on the team, Jackson Bennee, who we all love. But really, why is this so important for the Utes? Look, in my view, the number one biggest need area, the biggest concern going into 2026 season is the offensive line. We've got talented players coming in, Obot, Benjamin. We've got some returning players, but none of them started last year, as you've said many times, JT. And a player like Noah Bennee basically is an extension off that tackle position to help early in the season, both Benjamin be starting or Kelvin Obot the robot right there. Just protect him right on the side. So especially early in the year when they're trying to get more polished in their game and move up to like that, like the A4 level of college football, he will be there delivering blocks, helping out, keeping Dampier clean, blocking in the run game. He's basically another extension, another piece of the offensive line with an experience piece too that's desperately needed, especially during the first 6 games of 2026 until these guys really get more polished and gel more. So I think that it's a fantastic genius level, under the radar pickup, A+ level, Noah Bennee. Thank you, Utes.
I think it has the potential to be A+ level. I just want to see that P4 jump if he's ready for that, right? I've talked a couple times about last year, not just a FCS tight end, but I go to a G5 guy in Otto Tia, right? He had to become a tight end because it just wasn't working at wide receiver. So sometimes it does take these guys time to either get up to the level or they don't materialize in that spot. So that's an area where hopefully Noah Bennee can do that. But I will also add, like, Dallin Bentley did nothing his first couple of years at Utah. And he literally, Mel Kiper is like top 5 on his latest big board. So just because these guys haven't done a ton at the P4 level doesn't mean they can't buy in during an offseason, grow, get better, and become a star. And I'm hoping that he will, because one thing also that really hadn't been talked about a bunch, I feel like, is this part had been talked about. Kevin McGivern's offense is similar to what Jason Beck did last year. Yes. What was Jason Beck's offense key on last year? It was how much Dallin Bentley could be productive over the middle of the field. This team's second leading receiver, Dallin Bentley. Utah needed someone to fill that void there, and I'm really excited that they were able to find him, who I feel like can do that. It just remains to be seen how he's going to progress over time. Speaking of tight ends really quickly, one exciting thing is we talked about in the first segment a little bit too, Philip, that Utah loses Salesi Moa. That could be a future NFL guy. Yeah. Utah trying to have success recruiting and developing some NFL guys. Well, there's one big thing that Utah can still pull on when it's talking to these recruits and trying to pitch them on the future of Utah football. Utah can sit down with guys and go, hey, did you watch that Bills-Broncos game this weekend? Guy might be like, yeah. There were 7 Utes in that game alone, as Glass Half Bennett Ute, who works on the Blockcast, did a great job of noting. That's a lot of players on the field in one game. And there were other Utes throughout this playoffs as well. Jalen Johnson with the Bears, just one of them. So several other Utes throughout the playoffs playing too. The fact that there are so many Utes, Dalton Kincaid makes a big touchdown catch in that game. Cole Bishop has had big moments throughout these playoffs, right? The fact that these Utes are stepping up on the biggest stage is that reminder that your ultimate goal is probably NFL, not just winning in college, NFL. You can still accomplish that at Utah. That's only going to be bolstered, Philip, by when Utah has 2 first-round picks this upcoming draft class. That's something that really excites me.
Well, heck yeah, and I love it. Like looking at the divisional round of the NFL, there were 8 Utes that played, right? And you mentioned that Bills-Bronco game were full of Utes. Like you had 6 Utes playing in that game. Well, actually, Wisnowski, the punter, Mitch Wisnowski, he didn't actually have a punt, but he was the starting punter. Yeah. Like, you know what I mean? Like here, right? So you had 6 players. So really, the Utes are balling out. Dalton Kincaid's developing into one of the best tight ends in the NFL, receiving tight ends. And you have other players like Jalen Johnson playing versus the Rams in the divisional. Connor O'Toole even playing for the Seahawks, getting tackles versus the 49ers. I mean, really, the Utes are showing out. But going back to Bennee. So Bennee really, in my mind's eye, JT is really going to be a blocking specialist. And I think that this is one of the most talented skill position units that Utah's ever seen coming back for 2026. The whole is experience in offensive line. And I just think that bridges that gap a little bit more and helps these new tackles gel a little bit more, get more comfortable so we can be more explosive. So I just think that was kind of a missing piece, an extension of the offensive line that's going to really pay huge dividends.
I'm fascinated by what this offensive line combination is. I think had Jim Harding stay, this offensive line already would have taken a massive step back next year. Now you have Jordan Gross. Long-term, think he's going to be a really good hire. I'm a little worried for year one. Not only is he trying to recruit and develop and get guys up to that level, he's learning how to do that as a college football head coach. He knows the position, but knowing that there's been lots of great players as well who hasn't exactly worked out as coaches. So I just feel like it takes time. And a couple of guys you mentioned, Benjamin Obot, those are true freshmen. Spencer Fano took his lumps as a true freshman even. So I'm very curious if those guys will actually end up seeing the field, right? But even some of the guys they brought in, we brought in a Montana State offensive lineman. What we just talked about, my concerns with Bennee, those absolutely apply to him. We brought in a center from Ohio State who was a redshirt last year, keyword being redshirt. I think he played like 31 snaps this past season. That's nothing on the grand scheme of things. So there's a lot we don't know about this offensive line up front. But what I do feel like I know, Philip, is that the defensive ends for Utah are in good hands with Utah's newest position coach hire. This is a big one. I don't think a lot of people are talking about it. We're going to tell you why it matters in one moment. This episode of Locked On Utes is also brought to you by our friends at TurboTax. Tax season doesn't have to take over your life. This year, TurboTax is making it easier than ever to just hand things off and move on with your day. With TurboTax full service, you can have your taxes done for you by a trusted local expert, start to finish, without the stress of guesswork. Instead of spending hours trying to figure out forms, you can meet with a local tax expert in person or connect online. You can upload your documents, go about your day, and get updates right in the TurboTax app. It's a huge time saver and gives real people the peace of mind knowing an expert is handling it. For a limited time, you can have your taxes done by a local TurboTax expert. Just $150 all in. If a TurboTax expert didn't file for you last year, just file by February 28th. Take taxes off your plate and get your life back. Visit TurboTax.com/local to book your appointment today with TurboTax. The Utes staff lost a lot with Kyle Whittingham heading off to Michigan, and Morgan Scalley is making plays to try and replace those individuals to be the team's new defensive end coach after Lewis Powell departed. He hired Inoke Breckterfield, who comes over. Last year was with Baylor, but he's been around a long time. He helped Washington get to the national championship game a couple years ago. He actually even worked with Aaron Donald. That's right. He worked with Aaron Donald at Pitt. I like a veteran coach like this coming in. He's worked with, he's developed, he knows talent. This is a guy who's been around, and I absolutely think can make an impact in the defensive end room that has to replace two starters after both Logan Fano and John Henry Daly are now NFL bound, Philip. So he's got his work cut out for him, but I think this is a nice move to get a veteran. This is what this room needs to me.
Experienced defensive line, a defensive end coach, multiple A4 level programs, Baylor, Washington, Vanderbilt, Wisconsin, UCLA, and Pittsburgh. Like, he's been everywhere, JT. This guy is so dang experienced. He went to Oregon State himself, so that is his alma mater. But let's talk about what he brings to the table for the Utes. He's got some coaching strengths and a couple things that are more of like concerns, maybe weaknesses too, that we can talk about just really quickly here. Number one, he's an NFL caliber player development guy. Aaron Donald, you mentioned it. TJ Watt, when he's at Wisconsin. This guy can develop gems and really bring them to the next level, caliber level, development-wise. So then also, what does he specialize in? Every Ute fan is going to love this. What's his specialty? He shuts down the run. He shuts down the run. He shuts down the run. I love it. Yes, look at Washington's defense when they made the national championship poll a couple years ago. They were one of the most stout rush defenses. This guy is a run-stopping gap scheme specialist that's going to absolutely stop these hemorrhages going on at Utah, which is desperately needed going into 2026. It gets me excited. Also, he's won at high levels, with Washington, with Wisconsin. A lot of good defenses he's been a part of. He's put together really good units. I love the hire. An experienced hire, an A-level hire. Let's talk about some of the things that he might not be the strongest points for Breckterfield here, Coach Breckterfield. So number one, he doesn't really focus on and develop necessarily explosive, twitchy edge rushers. When you're thinking of like SEC killer edge rushers, even like a John Henry Daly that was just dominant last year, these edge rushers that just get in there and pound the quarterback all the time, it's not the focus. He doesn't develop that type of player, more gap scheme and like run stopping. He gets pressure with his defensive units and stuff, but it's not necessarily coming from the edges all the time. So that's just not really how he coaches. And also he's a good, but not an elite blockbuster recruiter. He's been a lot of places. He's from the West Coast, and that's great for the Utes because he's going to have West Coast ties. He has California-based ties, Hawaii ties, Polynesian ties. Fantastic for the Utes program. He's a really, really good fit with Morgan Scalley being a new head coach. I love the hire and stuff, and he's going to stop the run. Thank goodness.
He has experience with Lance Holtzclaw, too. They crossed over at Washington, so a little bit of familiarity there as well. And look, as you mentioned, he doesn't have the history of developing those explosive pass rushers well. I think Cash Dillon has some explosive traits, so hopefully those two, whether it's his traits and as well as his veteran experience, hopefully they can get that out of him. But you talked about, too, Phil, like Utah needs to upgrade their run defense badly from what happened last year. And, John Henry Daly getting injured was a big part of one of the reasons the run defense fell off. Also, some of the defensive tackle issues, linebackers being out of place, but also not having a star-studded defensive end out there on the field drastically hurt this Utah team. So I think this is a good get, and I'm curious to see who will bring in for his guys. Utah did get a commit from Ethan Day, who comes in from North Texas. He had 4.5 sacks there. That seems like more of an Eno type of guy who's going to do a good job stopping the run, because if you get 4.5 sacks at the G5 level, I'm curious how that translates to P4 right away. A reminder, when Paul Fitzgerald transferred to Utah, who's probably the third or fourth defensive end on this depth chart right now, he had 8.5 sacks with the Aggies. He hasn't done much of anything with Utah too. So curious to see how this group does to rushing the passer next season. That's something they have to do better. And there's a lot of things that Utah needs to get better at for next season based on how much they've lost in the transfer portal. I've said right now, just looking on paper, Philip, this Utah team has, I feel like, gotten worse since the end of last year. Now, thankfully, I think in some ways the Big 12 has too. You have guys like Devin Dampier, Wayshawn Parker, a couple key defensive players still coming back to this team. So I still think they can be among the top in the Big 12. But as we stand here today, in some ways, this is a more 8-4 team. Maybe the schedule could get them to 10-2. I see more 8-4 when I look at them than 10-2. Since you lost all 5 starters up front, several other key pieces. I'm a little concerned. How are you feeling about the 2026 outlook when you look at this roster as we stand here today on January 18th when we're recording this with Utah's transfer portal haul so far?
With the transfer portal haul, I think that as far as like an offensive talent across the board, our offensive talent isn't quite as strong as it was in 2025. Look, we had the best offensive line in the nation, in my view. How are you going to beat that? Like, in this day was coming if Whittingham was here or not, JT.
True.
Like, that line was leaving no matter what. And so this would have been a problem with Whittingham, with the players, that if they would have all stayed and stuff, it would have still been a small regression. I think the skill position players that did stay are going to get better. So I think our skill position is going to actually be upgraded this year versus last year, just with another year of experience. But I think the trench play is really where I'm concerned about. Look, we need to stop the run like we just talked about. That's the number one thing. And number two is the offensive line needing to gel. And like, we've got talented younger players, but how long is it going to take them to gel? That is my biggest concern. That's the difference between Utah being an 8-4 team and maybe contending for a Big 12 championship. Seriously, if the offensive line can gel quickly, Utah is going to be in it with their skill position players with anybody. The Big 12's down this year. And I hate to say it, but Ute fans, we absolutely need to go out the season because there is a team in Provo that's going to be a good team this year. And when they're coming to Rice-Eccles Stadium and we all need to get juiced for that game, they ain't going to beat us at home this year. No chance and stuff. We must win this football game because they will be in title contention. They've got a lot coming back, and we've got the team to beat them and stuff. So let's freaking go for the 2026 season right now, JT.
We've got to. You know what's crazy, though? You mentioned losing all 5 starting offensive linemen up front. When we talk the trenches, you can include D-line too. They lost all 4 starters there too. So it's like, oh my gosh. And then we had Lander Barton to that. And Smithstone, it's just a lot. And it's also just a fact, as much as I like a lot of the transfer portal additions they brought in, 0 proven P4 players so far. Guys who were P4 starters last year that come to Utah. G5 starters did well, earn the opportunity to step up. Absolutely. Pagan's one of those guys, even a couple of the defensive tackles. I like those gets, but they haven't proven they're P4 ready. So I think that's where some of the cause for concern lies with this Utah team. But we mentioned the Big 12's down. I do not think Utah is a gauntlet of a schedule at all. BYU having to come to us is big. We don't see Tech this year too. Even Oklahoma State, who I like a lot of what they're doing in the portal. We don't see them as well. So there's a lot of reasons.
Houston's the game. They're coming to Rice-Eccles too. That's going to be a top 3-5 Big 12 team. I'm telling you guys, Houston Cougars will be in contention. Houston and BYU are the teams that we have to beat this year.
1000% agree. That was what held us back last year, right? The teams coming into the year, Tech, BYU, felt like I had to beat them. Weren't able to do it. So Utah has an opportunity to try and right things in 2026. I still believe they can, even if I'm going to be a little skeptical, as I think we both are, based on the lack of proven commodities there. Philip, always a blast having you on, man. Please let everyone know where they can find more of your work at.
College Football Mafia, come check us out so you don't flunk college football realignment.
And there's a lot going on, so make sure you guys keep everything up to date there. Philip, thanks again, man.
Thanks, JT.
That's going to do it for this episode of Locked On Utes. We'll be back with you tomorrow talking the latest in Utah football. I want to remind you guys again, you can head over to lockedonutes.supercast.com to join our Everydayer Club ad-free episode and the Discord chat. It's a great time. Head on over and check it out today.